5 years. I waited 5 years to see her cry like this? It's finally over. Welcome to the first video in my Anime and Retrospect series, where I look back on now concluded anime that I've had a lot of time to examine. I hope you'll enjoy watching it as much as I did working on it. There are some more I'm writing as other anime are reaching their conclusions. That one's going to be wild. But for now, it's all about Oregairu. And with that, it's time to move on with the video. At first, Oregairu, or as you may know it, my teen romantic comedy SNAFU, at first, it never really stood out. To me, anyway. The art in Season 1 is funky, and other than the obviously above-average characters, it didn't exactly have much going for it compared to other seasonal anime of the time. But when the second season aired 2 years later in 2015, something changed. It was way more popular. And that popularity was appropriately met by increased production values and tighter writing. This sudden yet seamless shift in tone and presentation immediately captivated me. This is where Oregairu confidently rose above the trash it was so used to being compared to and became something much more unique and beautiful. The first season retroactively became more fun to watch and now additionally served as the foundation for which this amazing character drama could unfold. It changed hands from Brain's base to Studio Feel because the higher-ups must have realized that people cared about this and they knew that meant they could make more money from it. This is made even more evident by the fact that it wasn't just the animation studio that changed. Nearly all of the major staff were overhauled too. Just look at this fucking OP, I knew I was in for some good shit with Zoku. By the end of the first season, it wasn't really clear for me where the series would go, if it even wanted to go anywhere. But by the end of Zoku, it was clear as day that this story really is more of a story than an unambitious romantic comedy. A final point to settle on was in sight, and you were either on Team Yukino or Team Yui, or if you were lawful evil, then you were on Team Iroha instead. Yeah, that's right, Iroha gang, I said it.
Why you gotta disrespect, bro? I do respect you, bro. Show some respect, bro. I do respect you, bro. Stop disrespecting, bro. I respect you, bro. Okay, I respect you too. Okay.
I was Team Yukino because Yui is my waifu, and if she were to end up with Hachiman, that meant she couldn't end up with me. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. If I'm going to be recalling my time with this series, I should begin with, well, the beginning. Just kidding. The specific events of Oregairu aren't why I care so much about it. The plan for the multiple proms and any other business the characters typically occupy themselves with, I almost couldn't care less about that stuff, so I'm not going back and recapping everything. You probably know what happened in this anime, and I mainly want to get my thoughts out there. And sure, without things happening, it's impossible for the show to mean anything. I'll still talk about some of it, but I don't think we need a 3-season recap. The events of Oregairu are its external conflicts. The purpose of them is chiefly to set the stage so that the more internal conflicts have an appropriate setting to manifest in. One of these is clearly more important than the other. A synopsis would likely tell you that Oregairu is about the exploits and activities of the Volunteer Service Club, where the 3 main characters endeavor to do exactly what that name describes. They help people, no matter what it's related to. Hachiman joins and uses his unconventional problem-solving skills in a way that the others can't deny is extremely effective, and quickly becomes ancillary in the club's efforts. And watching that can be fun, it usually is, but it's the personal conflicts that seep out and slowly become the true focus that have turned this show from just another anime to mark as completed into something I would return to and think about often. It's the silently increasing meaning of the small things, like Yui placing a sticker on the clubroom sign each time they complete a request. And I know it's her. Iroha frankly isn't on that level of cute, and no one else would do it.
What's up, bro? What, bro? What's up, bro? Take a swing, bro. Right here, bro. Let's go, Sondheim. Wipe the street with his punk ass.
Each time a new sticker appears at the beginning of an episode, it places with it a heavy feeling as the full dichotomy of the show grows closer toward an inevitable confrontation and testing of relationships. They have become good at helping others figure out how to solve their problems, but they fail miserably when it comes to their own.
Ironic.
It's a terribly depressing contrast that's hard not to know is coming. I never thought that Yui's cute fucking stickers would make me feel sad in the exact same way that her cute fucking face does. They make me feel feels both because she's not real and I can't have her, but also because the expertly depicted pained expressions she wears tell the same story that the cute fucking stickers do. But that's the effect that this show ends up producing more and more the longer it goes, until it all comes to a head during the zenith of the group date scene in Zoku's final episode, and well, everything after it. This effect of a growing feeling that this group's shared life together has to change drastically. This group of people who started out as dysfunctional strangers who are now so seriously invested in each other's lives and well-beings. The glum opening for the final season wasted no time in making it clear that this feeling had become ever more tangible and real. Hachiman by the bike, suggesting his eagerness to move on from his old self. Yui's position near the gate, indicating her struggle with giving up. You could say she's on the fence about it. No, I'm kidding. I honestly feel bad for her. You might hear that a lot in this video. And finally, Yukino at the open window between the other two. Unsure, but finally facing her troubles on her own terms. Compare this with the extremely bright and hopeful ED sequence. It's this contrast of their joyous times together with that depressing and almost certain eventuality that is possibly what I love the most about Oregairu. But I don't love everything about it. The production side of things, for example. Being truthful, I find it to be underwhelming. It depends on which parts of the technical quality I decide to look at, like most other anime. The music is maybe the biggest disappointment to me. It's decidedly average and mostly forgettable in my opinion, but the pivotal character moments that I am predisposed to remember unquestionably are enhanced by the music when it counts. It isn't something that I find particularly praiseworthy, as even below average dramas take care to at least make the important parts memorable, but I still appreciate it more than I usually do. I'm already invested, so that bias helps. The OPs do slap though, especially Harumo Doki. Unskippable. The piano rendition made use of during that scene in episode 7 of Zoku is probably my personal highlight as far as the music is concerned. The EDs aren't so bad either, but still don't stand out as above average to me, with the humble exception of Diamond no Yundo and its rendition. There's just way too much to love about that one. The song played for the festival concert is good, but what I truly got out of that scene is seeing two of my favorite cuties have so much fun together. And I love the visuals once season 2 starts. The clearly improved art is mostly to thank for that, but it's a step up in literally all capacities. There is so much more care put into the cinematography, lighting, and shot composition that there just wasn't before. These attentive visuals go hand in hand with Oregairu's famed use of subtextual storytelling. Visual storytelling matters a lot in a show that makes heavy use of subtext, both for the audience and for the characters too. So in the rare moments of this anime's self-awareness, everything feels elevated because of it. The animation is noticeably better, but that doesn't matter to me in the context of a high school drama. Not that it can't make the experience more enjoyable, it just doesn't have anything to do with why people are watching Oregairu. The visual buffs are appreciable to me in the end. They breathe new life into the series, and combined with the subtext, it's part of what helped me to realize, hey, wait a minute, this anime might actually be something more than I initially thought. But now I want to talk a bit more intimately about the characters. And I am going to focus on the three who define the essence of what makes Oregairu so dazzling for me. The other characters aren't unimportant or boring, and we all know by now that I don't really give a shit about Iroha.
Why you gotta disrespect, bro?
But this is already going to be a long video. I'll be talking about Yukino Yukinoshita, Yui Uegahama, and Hachiman Hikigaya. I'm starting with the girls because they're cute. Everyone likes cuties, but not the candy sucks. Starting with Yukino. She's a real can of worms. Yukino has issues, and she lets those issues define her. The point of her character arc is discovering what kind of person she really is underneath the whole Ice Queen facade, to escape what her mother decides she is and become comfortable with being who she really wants to be, to find who she wants to be. to be able to make her own choices, to know what it means to be her own genuine person. Just like Hachiman, Yukino wants to have something genuine, although their struggles are entirely different. But they share this goal in common and recognize that about each other. This is the foundation of their relationship, and really the foundation of this story, as much as I hate admitting it. Oregairu never shies away from making it clear that Yukino is more of a protagonist than Yui is. Yui stands in her shadow in some ways, but at least the writing cares enough to not make that fact so explicit early on. If you've seen enough anime, then you could tell already that this would be the case just based on Yukino's design. But Yukino definitely separates herself from her archetype more than any other in that archetype, which I have paid notice to. She has that same pompous, self-assured, invariably competent attitude that is definitive of Ice Queens. But here it is the actual focus of her character, and it is explored in depth as she struggles to come to terms with the fact that she isn't someone who can just do everything. She's not Tom Cruise. If you've read the game, then you know what I mean. Yukino is at least as reserved as Hachiman, and her slow process of opening up to him and to Yui too is one of the secret goals of the club and is a main component of the underlying theme. Hachiman is the protagonist, I don't want to get that mixed up, but Yukino is enough of one that sometimes I get the feeling that her journey is actually more important. The struggles with her own perceived lack of identity and her difficult quest to leave her shell are honestly a little hard to watch. But she has people there for her, even if she is apprehensive to call them her friends for a while. Yukino's character arc always grounds the show in realism, and even though that realism can be gloomy, it's another thing that makes Oregairu stand out to me. If it was always just yahalo this and yahalo that, I wouldn't be writing this. I'd still very much enjoy it because, well, we've established that. But this contrast between the happy, energetic mask that Oregairu wears and the more somber reality underneath is what kept me coming back to it. So while Yui is my waifu, I can still appreciate Yukino because of what she brings to the bigger picture, including, perhaps more sad than anything else, her position in the inevitable choice. God damn, this scene got to me. Oregairu didn't take long to imply this outcome, and it kept on implying it, but to actually physically use my eyeballs to see it manifest like this affected me in a way that I can't describe. It just hurts to watch, fellas. It just hurts. Oregairu was always trying to get at something without explicitly stating it, and for a lot of people, this moment is what made that something so apparent it could no longer be ignored. Fun fact, here's that same picture being hurriedly shoved into Yukino's bag before Hachiman has a chance to see it back in Season 2. This is just one of many little interactions that will mean so much more upon rewatching. Even all the way back in Season 1, before Oregairu got quote-unquote serious, there are a few subtle moments like this, and they give more insight into Yukino's increasingly genuine self. Wait, it was always genuine? All because of this one scene that Yukino isn't even really a part of. But she does get her share of important scenes, as we know, and there's some really good scenes. Climax is the season where everything was finally brought out into the open. Everything that was uncomfortable for the characters, but which was necessary to tackle at some point or another. Yukino's start at breaking away from her codependency with Hachiman and Yui is one such. It's what mainly ties the group together, although no one wants to admit it. It felt crushing when Haruno just put that out there all of a sudden. For Hachiman and for me too. It's what defines their true relationship. But there is still a sort of fledgling there, legitimizing it as the something genuine that is being seeked out. Haruno did a good job at selling her more pessimistic viewpoint on the matter, but Hiratsuka-sensei sells her optimistic view even better in my opinion. Yukino and Hachiman's chemistry is almost too natural. It's so good that it makes me big mad as a Yui fan. And it obviously makes Yui uncomfortable too. Both are less social people with quiet demeanors and are soft-spoken, so it's a good recipe to work with. Even with her feelings for Hachiman being blurred by their codependency, even with that distinct uncertainty, it's easy to tell that something is there. And speaking of soft-spoken, Sayori Hayami is a great fit for the voice of Yukino, but have you seen Fintan? Because she plays Fintan too, and everyone should watch Fintan. And it would simply be an injustice if I didn't say you should also watch 360 Degree Fintan Sauna Experience. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that Yukino was able to overcome her hurdles and really become confident in her interpersonal relationships. Her final struggle with letting go of the dependency she had grown so comfortable with Well, that's another scene that's hard to watch. But enough about Yukino. I love Yukino and everything she does for Oregairu, but now I want to talk about my number one waifu of all time. Yeah, you are 100% right, Yui. How could I not? I fucking love Yui. And there's just a few simple reasons as to why. Yui Uegahama is that familiar, happy-go-lucky, energetic, smiley ball of sunshine. She's a total dere-dere, and I absolutely eat that shit up even more than I do tsunderes. They keep making these archetypes for a reason, fellas. Some of us just can't help loving them, and I am proudly a part of that problem. Now, I have a bit of an unconventional relationship while watching Yui be Yui. She reminds me of the past. Yui is a person I used to know. She is the embodiment of a person who really did exist, and while their own paths are tremendously divergent, it's still absolutely disturbing for me to see. Her behaviors when she isn't all dere energy are 100% familiar to me. It's her resigned nature to give up on things to avoid causing problems. It's the way that she pretends to be naive about stuff. How she not so subtly elucidates her true feelings and intentions. How she relies on illusion to communicate when she isn't comfortable actually communicating but can't contain her uncontrollable desire to. How she loves to do anything that will make Hachiman happy because that dependent relationship makes her feel happy. I've seen it all before. It seriously fucked with me while watching through the anime for the first time, and I always found myself paying infinitely more attention each time she was part of a scene. It was just fucking bonkers. It doesn't help that now Toyama, Yui's voice actress, switches between her two most contrasting moods so naturally. It often feels like she's playing two different people, but who still somehow delineate one unified character. Everything about her, down to the dere-dere qualities, screamed in my face every time she was part of a scene, and even when she wasn't. And none of this is even why she's my number one waifu. She's just fucking cute, okay? The Yahalo shit is cute, her stupid hair is cute, that fucking smile is adorable, and I just want to... It's her nearly unwavering positivity that I love so much. And Yui's design just radiates the same positivity that her personality does, especially in contrast with Yukino's. Aspects like her lighter color scheme and the more carefree manner in which she wears her uniform reflect her more cheerful nature. Happy people like that are just great to be around, especially when your own life can be so dim and cold. She is a powerful ray of light prevailing through the dark clouds that Hachiman helped to place there himself. And he also has his kawaii little sister to help with that. Watching Yui was always problematic for me, especially once the final season aired. This final season has something that the others don't as of the moment the cat gets out of the bag. It felt legitimately sickening to watch sometimes. Namely, every time that Yui has to face Hachiman again, who she actually loves. Each moment that they spent together alone literally felt like a gut punch to me. I felt terrible for her, and I would often finish an episode with a totally soured mood. The dressing room scene, the dance scene, the scene where they're reviewing photos, and Iroha says to cross off the ones that make you uncomfortable, and Hachiman says he would probably cross off all of them, even though they're of him and Yui, and she's sitting right fucking next to him. The scene directly after where he catches her looking at him and she does this cute awkward fidgeting thing. The pseudo date, hearing him say he promised to save Yukino, and the part I found hardest to watch, the scene where she pretends to fall asleep on Hachiman. It goes on and on and on, and it is absolutely heart-wrenching. Because she feels so guilty about it. Because even if she didn't feel guilty, it's still an inherently negative place to find yourself in. That's why I find the ending to be somewhere in the realm of perfect. Because Yui grew to be comfortable with her unrequited affection to some extent. Because her character arc ends in a place of ambiguity, and with a tone so hopeful, it's a Gnostic good. I finished that final episode with a keen understanding that everything would be alright between the three of them, no matter what happened. I don't think I could describe an ending I would have preferred to see. And even though it flies in the face of the realism that Oregairu champions up until that point, I'm happy with it. I'm happy for Yui, but also for Yukino and Hachiman. And that's the most I can ask out of a story like this. I didn't think it would go quite so nicely for Yui because of the series of episodes leading up to it. I basically had to endure what was likely Yui torture porn for Yukino fans, but I'm happy with it, and I'm happy that I'm happy with it, because it was all very troublesome for Yui before that point. She's troublesome, that's for sure, but I'm going to move on to someone even more troublesome and the only remaining member in this main trio. Hachiman Hikigaya, our MC. Hachiman is an interesting protagonist in that I first assumed he would be another generic self-insert pseudo-harem ringleader, but it doesn't take too long to find out that he is different. He sees through the dynamics of social interactions as his go-to method of understanding the real feelings and intentions of those around him. He reads the subtext in a way that seemed almost like a personal attack to me. Let me explain what I mean by that. I used to do this same thing when I was in high school. Oh, look how special you are, another guy on the internet who says he relates to Hachiman. Hey, fuck you. The same paying attention to vocal quirks and body language that would tell me what someone is either really meaning to say or trying to hide. And maybe this doesn't seem like such a bad thing. Maybe you understand this yourself. The reason that Hachiman and people like him do this is because they're alone. Or they were, but have all of a sudden found themselves in genuine company, which is a situation many people know well. I know it well. I understand that relating to Hachiman has become a bit of a meme on the internet since so many people do, but that doesn't make him a shallow character the way that others want him to be for whatever reason. Oregairu is allowed to be deep, to have the deep and intimately relatable characters that it has. I know how valued this series is by its fans, and so much of that is due to how Hachiman is written that it can't be denied. And I am one of those fans who values it, and who relates to his dumb people skills. Note that I no longer rely on that, as I've since learned how to pretend to be a disgusting normie, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And seeing Hachiman suddenly find himself smack dab in the same types of groups immediately struck a chord with me. He found that something genuine, even if it was obscured for a while. I know that there are actually a lot of people who resonate with that, but each individual person's experience is so far removed from the next that it makes it difficult to pin down. And Oregairu does that using Hachiman as the medium through which to channel this vague but still unmistakable experience. So why did this feel like a personal attack or criticism? Because, I realized, the show was bringing something that I thought was unique to me, or at least secret to me, into such an open view. I felt exposed, but I couldn't look away. Hachiman intrigued me. By witnessing the trials he faces and finding familiarity in the people he spends time with, I felt forced to realize the similarities that were true about myself and my own experiences. Oregairu never tried to break the fourth wall, but the focal points of these highly specific situations that Hachiman goes through are all so familiar that they absolutely made me do a few double takes. It felt like someone had decided to make an anime just to fuck with me. That's why it felt like an attack. And while Hachiman's specific circumstances do draw a parallel with my own past circumstances, it was really more that the anime places such an unrelenting emphasis on it that got to me. It felt like all of my past mistakes were laid bare as I watched Hachiman go through the same thing, although his path through it was far different than my own. Once this conflict is made into the subject, everyone is able to naturally understand why Hachiman is like this, which frustrates him immensely because his own lack of that understanding is what defines his weakness. He thinks it's better to be alone, safer to be alone. He doesn't need to understand others the right way because he's so good at doing it his way. These sentiments are what drove Hachiman to act in such a singular manner. He didn't want to get hurt by the people whose lives he suddenly found his own life so intimately intertwined with. He found himself in a place which he had intentionally tried to avoid, and now that he was there, he knew he actually loved it, and he didn't know what to do. And I completely understand that. Learning that this kind of youthful experience isn't some weird singularity, but something that many people have a personal window into was actually really cool. That's easily what I love about Hachiman the most. But before I arrived at that, it was definitely the acting behind him. The withdrawn, annoyingly disinterested personality that Hachiman has just comes across so naturally with Takuya Eguchi's performance. He sells everything about Hachiman to such a degree that the guy basically is Hachiman to me, just like Hiroshi Kamiya is always going to be Araragi from Monogatari no matter what role he is actually playing. Hachiman's arc ends maybe too poetically, with his and the show's final line just being the title. That devious title. Not exactly unexpected, but the context surrounding those final words make it satisfying as all hell. Hachiman was right about youth from the very beginning, and he never thought he would be so happy to be right about it. The cliché MC window seat for his final year of high school is the perfect symbolism for his journey. It's a statement and a destination that I knew was coming in some capacity or another, but I couldn't help smiling when I actually saw it happen. And that's how I feel about Oregairu and its characters. Taking this look back at them now that everything is over just makes me want to watch all 3 of their journeys once again from start to finish. Because their journeys didn't end how I expected, and they didn't necessarily end at all. A chapter in their lives, in their youth, came to a close, and we're left knowing that they have new chapters to experience. Chapters that might come with more struggles, more growth, more testing of relationships, and more beautiful moments. And the chapter that I did get to experience was enthralling. This anime has been such a personal experience for me that I used to hate those personal parts without even realizing it. It wasn't just my shared flaws with Hachiman, it was the other characters too. I found something in all of them that I didn't want to acknowledge at first, but which eventually felt nostalgic to relive. And that's what's ultimately so dear about the characters of Oregairu to me. They serve as parables to my own life, to a lot of people's lives. They're a frozen glimpse into my past experiences who encourage introspection and resolution. They helped me to figure out where that place to resolve should be, and I can never thank them enough for that. Oregairu is a story about the struggles of youth, romance, and the boundaries of friendship. And while it isn't revolutionary for that, I doubt I will ever see those abouts depicted more in tune with my own life than they have been in Oregairu. Whether it meant to be or not, Oregairu is also about letting go. And so, I'll miss it, I'll miss its characters, but I will always remember it with a fondness that I can't define. Anyway, that's my retrospective on my teen romantic comedy SNAFU, Oregairu. Hopefully you enjoyed this look back at Oregairu now that the series has reached its emotional yet happy ending. I plan to do more anime retrospectives from now on as my main content because these are what I enjoy making the most. Get ready for my Heavens Feel retrospective. It will be massive. If you in fact did enjoy it and want to see more anime content, be sure to like the video, sub, hit the bell, and any other things that I'm supposed to tell you during this part. If you're new to the channel, check out some of my other videos like the one about Dr. Stone or my last one about why you should watch Gankutsuo. If you like Twitch streams, I'm a partner over there. You can find me streaming anime games like Fate Grand Order, so follow me there to catch the streams. Follow my Twitter and join the Discord server too if you're so inclined. Links for all these in the description. Thanks for watching the video, sayonara, and I'll see you again.